Okay. It's taken me that long to get this right in the right place, so I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. Um, Hello, I'm back. The last time I was speaking to you, I'd decided I was going to do the Harper cardigan, and the material I chose is this, which is the jersey knitted rib cable knit, and I've got on with it. So it's a Sinclair free pattern, and all you need to do is sign up to their newsletter. It's really simple to do it. It's a PDF. You go through the process as if you're going to pay, but obviously it's free, so there's no fee to it. And then you get an email with the PDF in, and you download it. And well, this was my adventure to get it, to print it, to then cut it and stick it. And I looked on YouTube to find out. Oh, sorry, I keep banging the camera. Looked on YouTube to find out how to do that. And usually the best way is just cut one side of the paper. There's a margin, and a margin printed, so that you know where your margin is. You can cut that piece off, then overlay it onto the next one. You join up all your pattern, and there are markers on to know which one's next. So that's what I did. So I had 4 rows of 11, and it was an adventure. So there is a picture of that all printed out and joined together, and then there is a picture. There's possibly a time lapse. I think there's a time lapse of me measuring some of the pieces and of me cutting them out, and it just made me see how exhausting it could be sewing, rushing about and doing all this if we had to do it at that speed. But actually I really take my time. I'm in no rush to get anything finished. I've no deadlines. I've no one waiting for this. I'm just wanting to do it for it's not just the enjoyment, but the sense of achievement. And that's kind of borne out with this dress. This dress was one that I brought with me when we moved in. No, I didn't. In 2015, I brought 3 things with me that weren't quite finished. And this one I started a couple of years ago, but we've had quite a lot of family issues, and we looked after my mum for several months over the last 2 years. She came to live with us. She was very, very poorly with depression, and not with depression, with dementia. And since 2011, myself and my sisters have really worked hard on making sure she could live well with dementia. She was a very, very positive woman. She loved bright colours. She loved to dress up. She loved to kind of, what she said, I'm a bit of a show off. But she was a very quiet person. But before I was born, she was actually singing. You just have to excuse all my dropped H's and my shortened vowels and my shortened consonants and my long drawn out vowels. I'm a Lancashire lass, and this is how I speak. She was singing in clubs in Manchester. Very good voice, lovely voice, and we kept that reminder of herself with her all the time once she became ill. So she would often just be we would call it washing the pots, but she would be doing her washing up and singing a song, singing away to herself. This was well before she got dementia. She's always sung just here and there. She's never done anything on the stage again after I was born, so it's all my fault. But we have a lovely photograph of her, a studio photo where she's in a beautiful pale blue. I remember it as pale blue because I remember her wearing it, and it was being in the wardrobe, but a pale blue net voile dress, and with a microphone in her hand. And she loved singing so much. I know I've diverted, but this is what I'll do. she loved singing so much. It was one of the things we could do to reach her. And we insisted when she eventually had to go into nursing care homes or nursing homes that they kept her music on for her all the time. That if she wasn't up to changing it, then they changed it for her. And she would often just be sitting there singing. She even started doing some kind of hand jive thing that was very spontaneous, but she would then burst into fits of laughter to find that she was doing that. It was quite a joy to keep her going, really. And I have my two sisters to thank for that, and my niece and my son and daughter-in-law and all her other great-grandchildren and grandchildren. Her nephew, Chris, a big lad, a very strong, lovely character, lovely personality. And my mum was quite little by the end because she'd got arthritis really badly in her knees. She'd had a new hip, she'd had a new knee, but she was quite bent into her knees to be able to stand up. And she was become so little, but she loved when Chris would go and he'd put his arm round her. Come on, Gran. And she just often would talk about that. Oh, he's here. He's a nice lad, isn't he? Anyway, back to my sewing. So, why on earth did I talk about that? I have no idea. This room and me getting back into sewing. And sorry for keep bouncing the camera. I've got back into so that's why I'd not got round to doing this dress. It would have been one of the times when I'd taken her in and we'd brought her over here and rearranged the house and everything so that she could stay. And sewing wasn't a thing. It wasn't like, where would I get my sewing machine out? Where would I get things done? So I put it on one side. And it stayed on one side for a couple of years, really, maybe 3. But when lockdown happened, and I know COVID is a dirty word, but I can't help talking about it because that's what's inspired me, not COVID itself. I've got lots of issues about that. But the lockdown enabled me, because I wasn't working, enabled me to just start catching up with things. Some people clean their house first, but I didn't get onto that first. I got onto, looking at which sewing things I could do. And I got this out, and I will talk about this in depth in probably another video, because I am really proud of it. I'm proud of my achievement. I'm proud of the fact that I finished it, because it started off as one thing. I could not get the bodice right at all. I'd done 2 other dresses about 7 years ago with the same pattern, and I just could not get this one right. I knew I'd had a little struggle with the others, but this one just would not go right at all. And in the end, it's a mashup of 3 patterns. So that's kind of why I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of myself for finishing it. And so getting back to why am I doing a Harper cardigan? What I've learned through lockdown is that I can still sew. I sewed for a long time ago, made my own wedding dress, but that was in 1972, so that is a long time ago. And I also did just a little top and skirt for our silver wedding. I don't even know when that was, but obviously it was 25 years after the 1972, and I haven't really sewn much at all since then, apart from making a pair of curtains each time we've moved or whatever. And so when I picked it up again about 8 years ago, I did it then, and then my sewing machine died, and I didn't really bother replacing it at that point. That's why my mum she figures in a lot of my thoughts and in relation to sewing, because she was always a sewer. We are sewists now, but she was always sewing. She made our dancing costumes. She made all sorts. She made her clothes. She made our clothes. She'd worked in factories as a machinist. She knew how to chain piece. She She wasn't necessarily a beautiful finisher on the insides, but it looked fantastic on the outside. And so she inspired me to sew. And then I got more and more interested as they started to sell material on the markets. They were market traders for a long time, and they started to sell fabrics. And that's another story, because I ended up with my own stall as well. So as I was reminded in some kind of post this morning about something. So the Sinclair cardigan. So it's the Harper cardigan from Sinclair. There's also the Blackwood. They're very, very similar. I can't think who makes the Blackwood pattern, but it's doing the rounds on YouTube. There's been loads of examples of it, and I was drawn to this because it was free, and I do have a limited budget, but I've also been inspired by, as I'd said before, a number of sewists on YouTube. One is the lovely Michelle, the Sewing Bunny. She is just a joy to watch and to listen to, and to hear her enjoyment of the fabrics and the love of her me-maids and her sense of achievement. She's so inspiring. And there are too many to mention here. Besides, I don't want you going off there until you've worked with me for a little while on what I'm working on. But also Andrea, Beyond the Pink Door. I've really come to have a kind of I just appreciate she's a seamstress. She'd worked in making Irish dancing costumes for many years apparently, and while her work dried up, her employed work dried up, she started to use the time to make garments for herself. And the way she works and the way she explains things really fits well with me. So when she made this Harper cardigan, I got quite into it. And I did try to get some fabric from her. I'd seen this before on a website, on a fabric website, and I wasn't really that impressed with it. I don't know if you can see it. It's got a cable within it. It's only jersey. It's not at all knitted. It's kind of an inlay on top of it. It's quite clever. I wasn't really impressed. I thought, well, why would you just knit a jumper if you wanted a jumper, wouldn't you? And, but I really did think about, I might get some of that when I saw the way she'd done her cardigan. And she'd done a yellow ochre one, and she'd done kind of a damson wine coloured, a claret one. And I did try to buy some, because she's also gone into selling fabric. I did try to buy some from her shop, but she didn't have the colours that I wanted. And I got this, it was Higgs and Higgs. I'm not familiar with all the branded fabric places. The one I use, which has been an absolute godsend through lockdown, and I didn't realise they were doing this through lockdown, but Janet at Fabrics at Fleetwood, which is really local to me, she had an online shop. She has a store in the main street in Fleetwood, an actual store, and she'd enlarged that service to have a click and collect service. You could order her fabrics online and have a click and collect service, which was wonderful. And also there was just a £1 postage per package if you wanted to order it online. And a good friend from the anti-fracking group that I am in, recommended Janet, let me know that Janet was doing this. So I've had quite a bit of things from her, but because I know her, because I used to go in there anyway, into the actual shop, it's been really good, because you can also now buy at the door. So there's a table, anyway, let's not go into COVID, but there are COVID safety measures in place. and I've built up quite a rapport, and she's kept me going. So Fabrics at Fleetwood are someone that I would definitely recommend, and I can also ask questions of her. And one day there was some oil missing off my order. I was only going to order oil, but you know how that is when you like fabric. And when I went to pick up my order, it wasn't till I got back that I checked it and there was some oil missing. So machine oil, because I only needed to oil my machine. I didn't need a bag full of stuff really. But she dropped that off for me on her way home. So that was really kind. So anyway, Higgs and Higgs. And as Andrea often says, I will just blab on and on and on, and so will I. So I don't even think I've introduced myself. I'm Susan. I live at the seaside, and I'm not sure if I am sewing by the sea, seaside stitches, or Susan at the seaside sewing. I don't know yet, but it's early days. So when she cut it out, she'd done the yellow one, and she was wearing the yellow one as she was sewing the claret one, and she explained that she hadn't pattern matched the front, so she was taking care to pattern match the claret one. So I've been inspired by that, and I set myself that task to try. I've not pattern matched all of it, and I've not pattern matched the shoulder to shoulder like she had done with the new one, but I did make a conscious effort to try and make sure that this was symmetrical. So I'm going to show this as a kind of as how I've done it, but it's just a starting point today. And to do the band, I'm quite proud of having watched how she did it. I did do a time lapse of me cutting it out, and I do, even though it's milliseconds, I do spend some time working out what's on the back, on the under fabric, to make sure I got this right. And it appears that I have, but I'm not quite sure because I've not took the whole paper off yet. The one thing I didn't get right was the band. There's a bottom band, so it's really only in 2 fronts, 1 back, which is cut on the fold, 2 sleeves that you put in before you sew up you attach them when it's open just to the front and the back. Very simple, you don't have to do any ease. And then when you put it out, you just sew it up one sleeve, up your sleeve, and down to the bottom on each side. And it's really simple, and that's what I've done really so far. Then at the bottom there is a band at the bottom. It's not pulled in tight, so you're not ruched up. It's a decorative band at the bottom, and then there is like I said, there is this front band which is cut on you cut 2, so you've got one that comes down from the back of your neck right down to the bottom. And you can do the cardi in a cropped length, just an ordinary regular length about to your hips, and I'm doing the longer version. But there's also one almost to the floor, a duster version with 2 splits up the side. And when I was talking about this material, I made a mistake really. It's quite a denim kind of a blue to me. The back is quite royal, but I ordered it as royal blue, and on the there was they do a swatch on all the pieces, and what I saw was more of a display thing with a stripe of each fabric on, and I went straight for the bright blue, and the brightest blue, which I thought it was even brighter than this, I thought would be the royal blue. When I went to the royal blue swatch in the grid to buy it, I didn't really take on that it wasn't as bright and vibrant as the other one. And on another side, I've seen that colour that I thought was the royal blue is actually cobalt blue. But Higgs and Higgs didn't have that anyway, that I could see. So I was a bit disappointed because I really love very bright, deep, direct colours. I'm not a fan of dusky things. I don't like dusky pinks, dusky blues. It'll do. I'll have to do it. Cost me a fortune. So there you go. So when I did the band, I wasn't as careful to know exactly how it was folded underneath, and as I cut it, it was fairly straight how I'd cut it, but it had shifted, or it just, because it's a knit, it kind of moved a little, so it's not in line with itself, if you know what I mean. It's not very good, is it? I don't explain it very well. But the horizontals are not very horizontal. They're slightly to the side, so it's on a little. It seems like it's more on a diagonal slightly. So because it is only a decorative band, I am going to just get my, which was there, my 24-inch ruler, and I'm just going to go up each side. I'm going to level it out. Oh, it's here. I'm just going to make sure it's level across, and then level it at each side. If I end up losing too much, then I'll cut another piece. I did get plenty of fabric because I thought it was royal blue, and I thought I'm going to like that. Anyway, so, and then the other thing, what's the other thing? These are cuffs, so they just end up turned in and joined together and put on the end of the sleeve. So I've never done that before. I've used a lot of knit fabric before. That's what my mum and dad sold. So it's not the knit fabric that I have problems with, and I have bought the book Tilly and the Buttons. I love Tilly. I love Tilly's ethos, and obviously I've not met her, saying I love her, but I love her ethos. I love her ideas and her openness and her willing to want to teach people. And why am I telling you that? I don't know. Never mind. Oh yes. No, never mind. I'll just have a drink of water. Anyway, for anyone who did see my previous video, this is Harold. This was my mum's little comfort bear after my dad passed away. She used to take it to bed with her, and she used to just, because it was a big shock. They'd been together for 62 years. They'd had the telegram from the Queen. It was a card, really. And my dad cut the front of the card off, and he stuck it in a frame on the wall between all the family photographs of all us and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And when the little great-grandchildren were going, they'd be saying, "Bye, Grandma, bye, Grandad." And he'd say, wave to Auntie Elizabeth. So they thought the Queen was one of their aunties. But that was my dad, you see. So they'd been together a long time, so it was a big shock when he died. And she was in the beginnings of dementia, which we didn't realise at the time. I was trying to tell you about this, and it had something to do with wonderful people, and that I hadn't done it before. Stretch. I bought the book Stretch from Tilly and the Buttons, because my issue isn't with jersey itself, it's with jersey that stretches. It's with spandex. I don't think had been invented when I first started sewing. So things with lycra and spandex, or whatever you would call it, with a bit of a give. This bit of a give I'm fine with. But if it's really stretchy, that wasn't the kind of jersey that I sewed with. So anyway, and just before, while we were in lockdown, I also bought an overlocker, which I'll go into another time. So I'm very new to overlocking, and bought a book about that as well. I watch a lot of videos, and I watch a lot more videos than I read about things, but I learn well from watching. But I like it to be backed up by just the written word, the facts, the diagrams, things that help me learn. And so I have had a go on the cardi with the overlocker, and I did get some royal blue, but it's a little bit lighter. Not done that one. See, I'll show you these things on another thing, on another video, or some inserted pictures, but this is what I mean by I'm proud of myself, and I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet. I'm just acknowledging it's really been good for me. It's been good for me to do this, and it's been good for me to learn from other people. Anyway, I am going on, and I just wanted to touch base because I haven't got all the filming equipment yet. I haven't got a microphone, I haven't got a tripod. I'm just faffing about, really. And so I'm just finding my way. But I also saw a post, a video, someone I know, Dotty Delightful, another, because I became an anti-fracker, I'm part of the anti-fracking community that was around Preston and Blackpool. There's some absolutely wonderful people that I've met. They have, it's the most person-centred organisation that I've ever been part of, and it's been a wonderful experience. It's been terribly terrifying to think that fracking was on our doorstep, and a massive relief when they had to leave. We did put a lot of effort into getting rid of them, but they had to leave. Not going into that now, but I've met some astounding people, wonderfully supportive people, and non-judgmental and very community minded, and that has been an amazing part of our last few years of our lives, to have met all these people and to have been impacted by their warmth and their, like I said, non-judgmental attitudes. And that links again for me, because my main role, purpose in life is that I'm a person-centred counsellor, and I very much revere the work of Carl Rogers, and just being able to be there for someone else, to help them to become self-enabled, facilitate that, is just amazing. And this person, Ruby from Dotty Delightful, she had done a kind of heartwarming positivity video, which I'm not necessarily into as a general thing, but it was really insightful, and she's a really lovely person. And she was another person who was sort of saying, if you've got an idea, just go with it. Just get on with it. Don't keep putting things off until another day, until you've got this, until you've got that, till you're ready for this. So I thought, okay, I'm off. I'll get my microphone, and I'll get my stand, and I'll get my lighting, and I'll get... but by then I might have lost my confidence or my enthusiasm, because my energy levels are not always constant. So I'm going to finish for now. I really do appreciate anyone who has watched and listened to this video. I can't tell you what to expect, except this is probably what you'd get, what you've had today. So lots of love to everyone, and stay safe. Thank you. Bye.